Welcome back, guys. Lonestar Patriot here. Thanks for joining me. So to continue on our short series on Glock upgrades, today we're going to be covering 3 simple but effective items. The first of those is going to be a grip plug. The second will be an extended mag release. And the last item will be a slide release. All of these products are going to be made by Ghost, so stay tuned and we'll get started. Alright guys, so to get started, I first want to cover the items I'll be using to install these 3 items. Now the grip plug is a plug and play item, so no tools will be required for that. For the extended mag release, I'll be using a small flathead screwdriver. And for the slide release, I'll be using an 1/8 inch steel punch to remove the trigger pin, along with an 8 ounce brass hammer. And then finally I have a makeshift bench block, which is made out of 1 inch MDF with a perforated hole here to receive the trigger pin as it's knocked loose. So stay tuned and let's talk about the grip plug. Alright, so to get started, take a look at the grip plug. This is the Ghost Gen 4 grip plugs. Now the nice thing about the Ghost product is that it does come with 2 plugs. One plug to accommodate no additional back strap that's been added to the frame, and the second one accommodates additional back straps that you might add to the frame. Now you can see here there's an opening there in the plug to accept those additional back straps. However, it is enclosed on the opposite end to keep debris out. Now this particular plug is similar to the Pierce grip plug in that it has just one plug in the package to accommodate both the no back strap and the additional back straps to be added. So in my opinion, the no back strap grip plug gives a cleaner finished look than the other plug that will accommodate the additional back strap. So I went ahead and installed the grip plug in here for you to see. It has a male end on the plug itself that seats into this female portion on the frame itself to lock it in. And you can see that it gives a very clean look on the frame, again, to where you have no debris that can get up into this opening on the frame. Alright guys, so moving on to the extended magazine release. This is the Ghost Gen 4 X release. Now I went ahead and installed this off camera. It was too difficult to capture on camera, so the magazine release that you do see in the package is the factory magazine release. Now what I use to install it is a flathead screwdriver. However, it might be simpler to use, say, a dental pick, and that way you can capture the spring easily. But to take a look at the magazine release on the gun itself, this does extend about 1/4 inch further than the factory release. However, I don't find that it interferes with the operation of the gun to where you have accidental discharge of the magazine. Now, if I field strip the firearm, we'll take a look and see if I can show you the spring inside the frame. So the spring that you're looking for, again, if this will come across on camera, is a spring right in here. If I rotate the frame upside down, it's right down in here, but it'll certainly be visible when you look at it on your own. But that spring has to be leveraged out. Again, I use the side of the frame to get my flathead screwdriver down inside, pop that spring loose, and then you're basically doing the reverse to install the extended mag release. But once that's in there, it'll seat into a little groove, and then of course it should be functional. You can easily check to be sure it functions properly. Now, one thing to note is that, at least it could be my perception, however, I find that the extended magazine release appears to be a little bit stiffer than the factory release. So that's definitely something to consider, but I prefer the extension, even though it's 1/4 inch further over the original factory magazine release. Alright guys, so to get started installing our slide release, this is the Ghost bullet slide release that I'll be installing. Now they do make a very similar slide release, which is a bullet forward slide release, of course, which puts the bullet in a forward position as the name indicates. However, I find that bullet forward slide release is actually more difficult to access with say a thumb to use it as a slide release than this traditional bullet slide release. So I much prefer this one. So to get started, we'll have our, of course, makeshift bench block out of 1-inch MDF. We'll be using the 1/8-inch punch to remove the trigger pin. So we'll push that through. And then to remove the slide release, it's actually the left slot here where the spring and the slide release seat into, and that spring engages underneath the locking block pin. So to remove it, we'll just simply pull it up and out and set that aside. And again, hopefully this will come across on camera, but the slot we're going to seat the slide release in is here on the left. So we'll take our bullet slide release and insert that into the same spot. Again, being sure our spring is underneath the locking block pin, and seat that in. And then you can do a quick function check to be sure that the release does work. And then the only thing to do now is to reinsert our trigger pin. And as you work the pin through, just be sure that the holes align. Which they do. So we have that seated. You just want to be sure you have an even reveal on each side of the frame where the trigger pin comes through. And then from there, it's just a matter of reassembly. So we'll take our slide, reinstall it, and then what we can do is do a quick check to be sure that the new slide release does engage. So we'll pull the slide back. Of course, it does engage on the slide release. We'll release it, and then we'll take an empty magazine, insert that in, again do another function check. It does lock it back to the rear, and then we can release it. So everything works as it should. Alright guys, so just to wrap up the installation of these three products, first off, these are made by Ghost Inc., as I mentioned earlier, and I purchased all three of these items through brownells.com. So in terms of price, the grip plug comes in at $8.95. The extended magazine release comes in at $14.50. And the slide release comes in at $14.95. So all said and done for all three items, that's less than a $40 investment. Now, I'll leave links to each of these items in the description box below, so you can check those out. But overall, aside from the upgrade of the sights, which we covered in a previous video, I definitely think that next in line in terms of upgrades that I prefer to do on a Glock are certainly the extended magazine release to give me that additional length to access the mag release button, and then also the slide release, which in this case gives me one additional option versus the slingshot method to send the slide home. So overall, I'm definitely pleased with these items and these upgrades to this Glock 19. Now, at least this gives you another option for your particular Glock to see if it's something you might like. But thanks for watching, and thanks for subscribing. third will be it's going to be the extended slide release. No, it's a magazine release. And those are going to be, we'll first talk about this is a 1-inch piece of MDF with a hole cut out to remove the locking pin. Trigger pin. All right, guys, so to get started, however, a dental plick. You got that dental plick? To remove the trigger pin, I'll be using a 1-inch. It's an 1/8 inch. A plug for and then we can check it for function. It should spring up. These 3 items. Let's first talk about price. It's coming in. These